Remember, there's some pretty important information here in the disclaimer. You might want to give the video a quick pause and read it.
Hello my friends, this is Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with another custom figure. This one's a little bit of a personal project to cool down between commissions. And it is Mecha Sonic Mk. Yes, Mecha Sonic Mk. This has been a long time coming. I actually 3D printed all the parts needed to make this guy back in May. But, I started picking up commissions and, I'm only now getting to this. Alright, so let's get into a little bit of the backstory of Mecha Sonic Mk. Because I feel like it's a pretty significant little chapter in Sonic's history books. So, back when I was a kid, it was always a point of contention, like, which came first, Mecha Sonic or Metal Sonic? Because when you play the games, Sonic 2 did come out before Sonic CD, and Metal Sonic always appeared to be more advanced than Mecha Sonic did. So it was a general consensus that Mecha Sonic was like the crude first attempt at making a Sonic robot, and then Metal Sonic was like the perfected version. But then years later, Sega has kind of made its They've retconned the canon, or rather, this is always ambiguous, but they've always made it clear that the events of Sonic CD take place before Sonic 2, even if that game was technically made after. In a way, you could say that Sonic CD was kind of a prequel. And I gotta admit, I always kind of had my suspicions of that, even as a kid, because Tails wasn't in it. Tails has never failed to be in a game with Sonic, after his introduction, so it always seemed weird to me that he was missing in CD. But then, why is there a more advanced version of Sonic Robot there? Well, this is where, the fan canon comes in, and I pretty much ascribe to this, fan theory that I haven't heard contradicted anywhere, that, Metal Sonic was actually created using the future technology from the Little Planet's bad future. So, after the planet was destroyed, after the planet was saved by Sonic and disappeared back into the future, Dr. Eggman lost access to that technology and therefore wasn't able to recreate Metal Sonic. This also explains why he doesn't just build an army of Metal Sonics, because if just one of them is almost a match for the world's greatest hero, imagine what you could do with 1,000 of these things. In fact, that's basically exactly what happened in Sonic Forces when he was able to use the Phantom Ruby to duplicate Metal Sonic, so there you go. But what I'm getting at is Mecha Sonic probably represents Dr. Eggman trying to recreate Metal Sonic using the technology that he had access to in the present era and not quite being able to do it. Hence why it's bigger, clunkier, slower, stiffer. But he did manage to upgrade it into Mecha Sonic Mk. For, the Sonic and Knuckles run. And this robot is really cool. Anybody who's a fan of Super Mario Bros. Z is probably familiar with this sprite. And, I wouldn't blame them. It's huge. It's menacing. It's like a Sonic Terminator. This thing is really cool. And here's something interesting. I remember this from watching a retrospective video on the Game Apologists, but, there was never, an official character reference sheet of this Mecha Sonic. Aside from the sprites, there's really never been official artwork of it. Not until Scrapnik Island came out last year, where they drew a clean version of Mecha Sonic so that they could then alter it to be Scrapnik Mecha Sonic. Man, I was trying so hard to avoid that flub. But yeah, so literally speaking, until about a year ago, we didn't have an official reference for what a standard Mecha Sonic would look like outside of that sprite. Isn't that weird? That is so weird. You'd think after 25 years or so, somewhere out there, we would have had some good reference artwork, but no. Like somebody would have come up with like dug up some concept art. Like there was nothing, no back of the napkin sketches in the development studio. Like come on, like that sprite had to be based on something, but we'd never seen it. Okay, so yeah, that's the general headcanon of what Mecha Sonic actually was. And it will also explain why in the Scrapnik Island comic he once touted himself as Dr. Eggman's greatest creation, now relegated to the scrap heap. Because in the events of Sonic 4, apparently, that's when the little planet reappeared again, and Dr. Eggman was able to retrieve Metal Sonic from it, and, then he had Metal Sonic back. So, all the other Sonic robots could just suck it. But, that's enough about the headcanon and the story of what happened with Mecha and Metal Sonic. Let's get to making the actual toy itself. So the model that I used to get my my parts for him came from this one. It was created by Tromac from Sketchfab, I think it's Sketchfab. But yeah, thanks to Corey, who converted the OBJ files to STLs, I was able to print out the various required parts. The head was the most complicated because it's so spiky. I ended up having to cut it in half and print the face part and the spines part separately, and then connect them together. Also, the model had no nose, just as well. Something so thin and pointy wouldn't print well anyway. And we needed a base figure, and I wanted a Sonic, something shaped like Sonic, but with robotic limbs, and would be, about 5.5 to 6 inches tall. So Grim Sonic won that bid. I could have used Chaos Sonic, but Grim Sonic happened to be on the store shelves at the time, and also his shoulder pads do look a little bit more like it. And, the shoulder pads are the one thing I didn't want to print because they're joints technically. So this figure, it dismantles relatively easily, but the torso is made out of hard plastic, so the head, shoulders, and those little hips are not coming out. And I literally had to cut the head out because there's really no way to get that ring out of the torso, and the ring is embedded into the head, which is also made out of a hard plastic you can't really soften by boiling. And I also didn't like the fact that the way that Grim Sonic's arms are attached to his shoulders, they're always outwards. He's almost T-posing when you have his shoulders straight, and the only way to have his arms at his sides are when his shoulders are slumping. And I didn't like that, so I actually cut the bicep part of his arm off completely so that I could reattach it at a better angle for Mecha Sonic. We'll get to that in a bit. First, I wanted to sculpt the torso, taking Grim Sonic's little vent chest and replacing it with the big metal plate kind of deal that we have on Mecha Sonic. There's no door that opens, revealing a laser eye inside, sorry to say. Not quite gonna engineer all of that crap in there. But I did make the little bolts, and with a proper paint job, it's looking pretty good with some cool metallic silvers and, the blue armor plate. Now you might see right there the I'm still recovering from COVID. Sorry about all the coughing. You might see something right there with the arm. Let's go back a little bit. The important thing for Mecha Sonic is for his arms to actually look right. So this is a staff from Evelyn. I cut it apart and used it as used its ABS plastic to embed into the forearms, the bicep part of the arm for Grim Sonic, and then drilled holes in the shoulder of the Grim Sonic to not only attach the arm at a more natural angle, but give him a bicep swivel that the figure did not have before. So this is one of the few times when I was actually able to improve on the figure's articulation. Go me. So yes, that is the story of how the arms go. The forearm part is a big old 3D print, and I shaved off all the armor parts and removed the hand from the forearm that the Grim Sonic figure came with, and embedded it in there with a little bit of epoxy. So now that's the arm would function normally. It has a de facto wrist swivel, and it can still bend at the elbow just like it did before. The legs were also modified. I cut off a bit of the shin to attach to the actual Mecha Sonic shin. And yes, I did use the another Evelyn staff to make essentially a shin bone to make sure that the foot would not disconnect from the, like the printed part and the original part wouldn't separate from each other, at least not easily. And that was basically Mecha Sonic's body, like all prepared. And you know what? I'm actually really glad with how the proportions work. Like, these proportions are virtually perfect. Like, all the proportions that Grim Sonic had are actually almost identical to the proportions of Mecha Sonic. Once you print out those longer forearms, that's really the only difference. Then I attached the head to it. Like, the hole I drilled into the head is linear so that it could fit onto the ring. But that gives us a Mecha Sonic figure, which looks really freaking sweet. The only flaw is that the elbows and knees aren't quite in the right places where they should be, but, that's because I'm working on a figure that already existed and squeezing it into a new mold rather than something that started out the way it should have been. But still, it all works, everything moves right, and Mecha Sonic is capable of making some pretty epic poses. In addition, he works really well with the 4-inch classic Sonic figures. He seems to be more or less the right height, with the characters being just about chest high to him, which is pretty much accurate to the way it should be. Sorry, officially made Mecha Sonic Mark 1 figure from Jakks Pacific. You just kind of look a little bit too undersized. Maybe if they wanted you to be with the 2.5-inch figures, they should have actually put you in the 2.5-inch line. Oh wait, they did put you in the 2.5-inch line where you were still supremely undersized. So that leaves your 4-inch figure looking undersized for the 4-inch line. I don't know why Jakks Pacific made that decision. They should have, the 4-inch figures should be 4-inch figures, and the 2.5-inch figures should be 2.5-inch figures. Except for, the Animal Friends and the Chow, because those are figures that are supposed to be small. But I'm just kidding. I digress. Thank you all for watching this video. This is Wake Angel 2001, letting Sonic take us out like he always does.
Oh, hey everybody, it's me, Sonic! Sonic the Hedgehog! Just here to remind you that if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. And for even more amazing customs, don't forget to subscribe to Wake Angel 2001. Because between you and me, they're way past cool.